Don't step in the puddle. What's poppin', people? It's Dante, getting my morning started here at the Centennial Arboretum. Welcome to the vlog. Today's thought is my ultimate street photography secret. And so I want to share this with you because this is something tried and true. All of the advice that I give on this YouTube channel, on my website blog at dantesisofo.com, everything is stuff that I actually use, right? Like, I'm not just giving you advice that's like willy-nilly, that is cookie cutter. This is shit that actually works. And so over the past decade of making photos every single day, I've recognized that the spirit of play and not taking myself so seriously is the ultimate secret to improving my photography. And so ultimately what I believe is that photography has nothing to do with photography, but photography has everything to do with how you engage with humanity, where you become a mirror that reflects back that interaction, that energy from the streets. And so I find that by not taking myself seriously, by engaging in the spirit of play, by being this very sort of flamboyant, gay, jolly, happy, joyous photographer who's out there just like a big kid playing in the playground, I make so many better photos than putting on my photography hat, you know, going out there like this serious, I'm a visual storyteller, you know, I'm gonna change the world with each click of the shutter and, you know, tell these visual stories, blah, blah, blah. You know, a lot of this stuff is not necessary. You know, I think the less serious you are as a photographer, the more you embrace play, the better the photographs you make. And this is something that I've learned very quickly while exploring the world, you know, where I photograph firstly, of course, in my hometown here in Philadelphia, but it wasn't until I arrived in Baltimore for university that I really had to start to make photos in my own unique way, in my own unique style, carrying around a Jericho GR2 in West Baltimore in a neighborhood that is quite desolate. You know, there's not many people in the streets. The buildings are all boarded up, and it's a very serious place to photograph in, as there's lots of crime. There's mostly just drug dealers, honestly, if I'm going to be frank, on the corners of these streets, and it was a very dangerous city, right? And so the only opportunity I had to make photographs of people was particularly in places where there's playgrounds or children playing on the street corners. And the youth of Baltimore and the youth of the world generally has become something that I photograph frequently, as this is something that just naturally resonated with me and was naturally an available subject in the location that I photographed where I happened to be. You know, where I would step out of my dorm and walk 2 to 4 blocks down the street, and I would wind up in these neighborhoods and I would photograph in my own unique way, embracing the spirit of play, not taking myself so seriously, going to a playground and just being a big kid playing at these scenes and then making photographs. And so it was something that I learned early on, was to not take myself so seriously, especially when I was out there in the streets in these dangerous situations, you know, and these dangerous places. You know, I even remember one time getting shot at in a drive-by, and I had to duck behind this car for cover, and then I just went back home, you know. And it was something very beautiful though, because I was photographing a child with a flower, and she was in front of this beautiful mural, and then all of a sudden this dangerous scene broke out. But I was there and I was playful, and I wasn't too nervous because I have this positive energy at the scene. You know, when I was out there and I was photographing in Israel and Palestine, exploring throughout all of the West Bank, I engaged in the spirit of play with the Palestinian youth at the scenes I photographed, you know, where they would follow me around the desert and I would beatbox. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. And I would tell them in the beatboxing their names, and I would ask them what they're doing today, and we would go out and just play and, you know, explore openly, where I was just beatboxing through my way all throughout Jericho City in the desert. And I would have flocks of youth following me, and I would go out there and engage with even the adults and people that would engage on the street, maybe in the evenings, and they would smoke hookah and hang out, and I would go up to them and I would freaking arm wrestle them. You know, I'll never forget arm wrestling and beating every single Palestinian man in in Jericho, and then gaining their trust and respect because of my physical strength. You know, when I went through Shafat, through the border, through that checkpoint, and I put my bag through the security checkpoint and they checked my passport and I walked through this big looming wall, I wasn't scared because I was playful. I wasn't afraid because I was just curious, like a big kid. What is this? What is this wall? You know, I wasn't looking at it with the lens of somebody who's there as a serious documentary photographer. I'll never forget too, like one day I remember going through the street and there was these Palestinian young men that were fighting. And, you know, I looked at that scene, I was like, whoa, they're fighting. Like, that's kind of, maybe I shouldn't engage here, you know, that's dangerous. But I actually went up to the guy and I started to play fight with the guy. I started to box with him and have a little slap boxing, like little session with the dude. And then I wound up making better photographs through that spirit of play, you know, where it's very similar to growing up and wrestling in the grass. And, you know, that's something that I used to do, you know, when the Palestinian youth would throw a rock at me and hit me in the leg and it hurt and it stung. I reminded myself of when I was a kid and I would have acorn fights and throw rocks at each other and sticks at each other when I was a kid in my neighborhood growing up and wrestling and play fighting. And so these are just things that I've done throughout my journey that allowed me access to make photographs that are more impactful. You know, it came through me not being so serious and just being playful. You know, where I traveled throughout Zambia, Africa as a Peace Corps volunteer, engaging in these different scenes where I otherwise couldn't ever dream of photographing if I were to be such a serious person, where I would take my shoes off and climb the trees and pick mangoes from the trees with my friends that I met along my journey. I would go out there and I would play football and soccer at these different scenes in different communities, whether I was traveling throughout Mumbai, in Dante within the slums, and playing with the youth at the scenes that I photographed, and then making photographs of that scene, and then having that energy reflect back at me. And, you know, I'll never forget all of the places I've traveled to that allowed me access to their lives, you know, where I've been able to go inside of so many different people's homes through my openness and my playfulness, and engage in drinking coffee, where I slept on the floors of mosques in Jericho and spent 2 weeks, or 2 months rather, learning all about Islam, you know, spending time with a group of brothers. And, you know, it may sound like a serious journey, it may sound like a serious thing, but it really wasn't for me. It was something just, you know, it was just following my inner childlike curiosity. And, you know, even to this day in Philadelphia, when I engage with people in the streets, you know, I'm always playful and I'm not too serious. You know, I like to dance through the streets. You know, when I was in Coney Island, I was dancing under the boardwalk, and then through dancing under the boardwalk and being playful at the scene, I was able to make a much more impactful photograph than me being this serious photographer making a one and done shot and then moving on. You know, but I stayed there and I was present and I was engaged at the scene. You know, when I was in Mexico City, I was dancing under the tarped markets in the evening when the rain fell, and I was playful at these scenes when I photographed throughout my journey at the top of the mountain in Mexico, or, you know, even when I was in the markets of Hanoi, Vietnam, just being playful with strangers and having this dialogue with my body language, you know, despite language barriers, through a simple smile and through confidence and courage. You know, anything is really possible, and anything that you put your mind to, you can go out there and photograph. But I want you to really hone in on the way in which you engage with life and humanity and how you approach the streets. You know, are you approaching the streets with this rigid mindset of being this serious photographer, or are you out there and you're just playful and you're engaged with the streets with this sense of play and maybe even humor or just lightheartedness, you know? And I think that's my secret. You know, my secret has nothing to do with the visual game of photography. You know, my secret has to do with the way that I engage with humanity, and how I've managed to make these pictures is all through the spirit of play. It's all it is. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, once again, how you interact with the world, how you engage with humanity, this is what reflects back in the photograph. You know, not how good you are at composition or whatever, you know? Really has nothing to do with that at all. It has everything to do with how you engage with the world, how you explore, how you are as a human, you know? And then if you're there and you're present when you press the shutter, if you're there and you're engaged and you have this experience, you know, these experiences reflect back in the photos, where you become a mirror and the street reflects your soul. And this, to me, is what makes life so whole and rich with meaning. It's not going out there seeking to make strong photographs, but it's going out there exploring and seeking to have rich experiences that fuel your lust for life through the medium of photography. This becomes a possibility. But remember, Photography has nothing to do with photography. Photography has everything to do with how you engage with humanity. That's the secret, that's the sauce, that's the idea of the day. So I encourage you to give it a try. Go out there and embrace the spirit of play today. Go out there and experience the world like a kid again, with that childlike sense of wonder and awe. And I can encourage you this because I know for a fact that it's helped me along my journey, and I'm just sharing this with you because I think it could possibly benefit you. And so thanks for watching today's video. I'm gonna enjoy these beautiful flowers now and go for my morning walk and snapshot my way through life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace, 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 peace. Wow, the cherry blossoms are even more beautiful today.